Bangladeshi party that was born out of the protests against the Sheikh Hasina government in 2024 has now forged an alliance with the Islamist party, the Jamaat-e-Islami. We have with us Asif Bin Ali, doctoral researcher at the Georgia State University. Thank you so much for joining us once again.
Thank you, Namrata, for inviting me.
So, how do you see the political landscape really changing in Bangladesh now with the NCP and the Jamaat on one side fighting against the BNP? We again are seeing a bipolar contest while we were talking of expanding and allowing more voices to enter the election fray.
Last 48 hours was a dramatic event in Bangladesh politics, particularly regarding forming the coalition between NCP, National Citizens Party, and Jamaat-e-Islami. Now, NCP as a new party came out of July uprising. Most of the leaders who led the July uprising protest have joined NCP and formed the political party. It was expected that the NCP would be a centrist party. However, from the very beginning, there was, uh, alarm from political analysts and journalists who follow this case. They were consistently saying that in order to form the party, NCP was depending too much on Jamaat resources. There were events which shows that NCP has organized a rally, but the manpower has been sent by Jamaat and Shibir. It's a student wing. There were rumors that NCP was able to uh, announce committees across the country in such a short time, not because they have developed the capacity, but because they got the direct help from Jamaat Islami and Shibir and their local networks. Now, it was pretty clear that NCP was depending on Jamaat resources. Now, within NCP, there were two groups of people. The one group who came from Jamaat or Shibir political background. Now, these group of people, they at some point may have thought that Shibir is not good enough for their politics or Jamaat is not good enough. So they wanted to go for another platform and form a kind of AK party, like the Turkish example. So they left Jamaat previously and joined NCP. However, they remain closely connected with the Jamaat and Shibir as well. On the other hand, there was another group within the NCP who claimed themselves as liberal or at least centrist to some extent. And they wanted to represent the center left inside the party. Now, the clash between these two groups was very much visible in the public space. But nobody thought that this would be this much, that the party would be taken over by the Jamaat fraction within the party, and then the center left and the liberal blocs within the party would be left out. What we have seen that followed by the announcement of the coalition between Jamaat and NCP, leaders like Tasneem Zara, Tasnova, and Khalid, they have decided to leave the party. Now you have to understand that these faces were considered the most progressive face within the party, and some of them left their career in the UK and returned to Bangladesh to join the politics. Another very important face of the July movement, Mr. Mahfouz, who was introduced by Dr. Muhammad Yunus as a key figure in the movement, and who was expected to join NCP as he left the government. And he was also one of the backbone of the party. But he also announced that he would not be able to join the party in his Facebook status. So coming together, so it means that there is a coup happened inside the party. The pro-Jamaati fraction have taken over the party, whereas the centrist and the liberal blocs have left the party. Now, I am not sure what the centrist and the liberal bloc will do. Will they going to join BNP? Will they form their own independent party? Like, for example, Tasneem Zara is going to contest the election as an independent candidate. Now, the future will tell, but it is pretty clear that right now, with this coalition between Jamaat and NCP, the Bangladesh politics has again been polarized between two blocs in absence of Awami League. And the bloc is the Islamist bloc led by Jamaat Islami, which is representing the right wing politics, and the centrist and liberal bloc, which is getting represented by BNP. Uh, You see, Bangladesh has three line of politics. One is the centrist left, one is the centrist right, and the right-wing politics. Traditionally, Awami League used to represent the centrist left. On the other hand, BNP was mostly centrist, but depending on the need, sometimes they moved to the centrist left and sometimes they moved to centrist right. And Jamaat usually represents the right-wing politics. After 5th August, when Awami League, were kicked out of the scenario, now there are only two party left, and gradually BNP took the centrist and centrist left position, whereas Jamaat became the sole representative of the right-wing politics. And NCP joining Jamaat also to some extent comprehend that division of politics across this left and the right line. However, it would not be right if I do not mention that some of the NCP leaders, especially the people who left NCP in last 24 hours, they have tried to build coalition with BNP as well. However, they were not able to successfully build the coalition with the BNP. There could be different reason. One reason could be the negotiation deal was not as favorable as party were expecting, and other could be that the pro-Jamaati fraction within the NCP was more interested to form the coalition with the Jamaat-e-Islami, not with the BNP. But right now, the situation overall is that the election will be contested in Bangladesh between mainly two fractions. The Jamaat lead right-wing groups, where NCP is participating, and the BNP and its followers.
While we are seeing two blocks, as you rightly mentioned, emerging for the February elections, on the one hand, you have the NCP and the Jamaat, which has clearly launched its campaign on the ground. But on the other side, we still see BNP with Tariq Rahman returning just few days ago back to his country. However, the whole process of the campaign is yet to kick off in a big way for the BNP. There is also concern around Begum Khalida Zia's health. Can you tell us about what is the BNP's outreach plan in coming days? And how do you see Tariq really connecting with people on the ground?
Uh, you see, Tariq has returned in Bangladesh after 17 years of his exile. And this is not like the first homecoming. In Bangladesh history, there were like three great homecoming. One happened immediately after 1971, when Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, as the Prime Minister of the independent, as the President of the independent Bangladesh, returned from the Pakistan jail in immediately just after the independence. The second homecoming was Sheikh Hasina, as when her family and father was assassinated. She was stuck out of the country, and she returned, and that is a big homecoming for Awami League. And right now, the third homecoming, which is for BNP, when Mr. Tariq has returned in Bangladesh. And the scenario on the ground was exceptionally grand, and almost like 50, 100,000 people appeared to, greet and meet Mr. Tariq when he returned in Bangladesh. And for like weeks, it was actually talk of the town. Everybody was excited, those who are affiliated with BNP, and also the sections of the citizens who were afraid of the emergence of these particular right-wing politics and the violence. They were also in a relief that, okay, fine, at least the BNP head has returned to Bangladesh. So it was a confidence boost among the party members as well as among certain sections of the civil society, and also the people who were looking for stability through a political process. Having said that, since Tariq returned, he has done some symbolic presence. Like, for example, he visited the national symbol, which was built to memorize the liberation war of Bangladesh. He visited Hadi's grave and the national poet, you know, national poet Qazi Nazrul Islam's grave to pray for them. He also visited his mother. So altogether, it was primarily visit. I think yesterday he went to the party office, and this is the first time he went to the party office in 17 years. So it was also a very exciting moment among the BNP followers. Now, having said that, has BNP started its election campaign? Yes, BNP has started its election campaign, and so, as Mr. Tariq started his speech by saying, I have a plan, very much similar to, Mr. Martin Luther King, that I have a dream. Now, what is the plan Mr. Tariq was referring? As far as I understand, and as I was following the BNP politics for last couple of months, BNP is introducing its 31st point as the plan. Now, of course, they are not mentioning right away now, but they are focusing on health, education. They're focusing on family card. They're focusing on protection of environment. These are very progressive promise that Mr. Tariq and his party was giving, and also like the overall the party. And their intellectual group has consistently discussing about it in the social media. Uh, Given looking at the BNP's election promotion campaign, it seems like there is a certain amount of anti-India sentiment in BNP's election campaign, but that is not the driving force. So the driving force of BNP's election campaign is a welfare state model, and that is what Mr. Tariq was saying. He has a plan. Anti-India sentiment in the BNP election campaign took the third or fourth position, and that was mostly based on how through two state government to government problems can be solved, and also they're calling for reciprocal sovereignty for both the countries and non-interference in their domestic politics, while at the same time promising that the border would not be used to infiltrate and to cause harm to a neighboring country's security. On the other hand, Jamaat and its coalition, the right-wing group, they have started their election campaign as well. Primarily, the core of their election campaign is basically anti-India sentiment, and also with the tragic death of Mr. Hadi and the kind of event unfolded around it, that emotion has been intensified. So primarily the target of these anti-India sentiment focused election campaign led by the right-wing group is not basically India, because they know that they cannot do much with that. But what are the target is basically the Bangladeshi citizens inside the country. So now whoever is opposing right-wing politics, whoever is calling for like stability, or whoever is criticizing a particular position of some populist leader, no matter how strongly they have opposed Sheikh Hasina, how strongly they have opposed uh, alleged Indian intervention inside Bangladesh politics. These people are now getting termed as pro-India, or like India enabler, or Indian interest enablers. So this is a very like political use of that. That's what we are seeing. However, I think with the election coming, this will intensify. Looking back to the third part of your question, Khaleda Jia, yes. Based on what report we are getting in the public media, as well as people from her health team. There is no good news so far. Her physical condition is still unstable in a way, and we hope that she would be able to, feel all right and come back. However, I also don't want to be over expecting, because it's a developing situation of her health. So I think the country needs to be ready for any kind of newses, depending on how her health situation develops in the coming weeks.
As you mentioned, that the immediate challenge for the BNP, of course, is Begum Khaleda Zia's health. What we're also seeing is Tariq Rahman in a tough spot at the moment, where we see the opposition, the Jamaat and the NCP now combining force, and as you mentioned, the anti-India sentiment translating into, uh, you know, problems for Bangladeshis within to be seen associated with any kind of rapprochement with New Delhi at this stage will be a very tough call for the BNP to even suggest or make that kind of a gesture. So, how do you see the BNP handling the situation at the moment? Because they cannot really project an anti India sentiment at this stage, but any kind of outreach also is a problem.
Well, it's not that BNP is not projecting uh, anti-India politics, but they are doing it in a more constructive manner. Now, the example could be Bangladesh has reasonable grievance with India when it comes to like the border killing, when it comes to the river share, water sharing, like for example, the Tista issue, and also some of the trade related issues. And I think similarly, India has some of the reasonable issues and grievances regarding Bangladesh as well, because they are two neighbors, and it's very common having those issues. Now, when BNP is, focusing on anti-India politics as a like third or fourth option in their election campaign, they're focusing on the river sharing aspects of that politics. So particularly a couple of months ago, some BNP leader uh, in the Padma area and the like Tista area, they have marched out a huge number of people at night as a public messaging, as a part of public messaging that we need to save our river. And from that perspective, they were also engaging with the India issue in Bangladesh. Now, those are more constructive and to some extent a very classic thing, because Bangladesh always had issue with India regarding the water sharing, no matter whether it was the Hasina government or it was the Khalida government. So it remained one of the central question. The problem happens when the core argument of anti-India sentiment is to uh, provoke the neighboring country, as well as to use the same sentiment in the domestic politics, and which is mostly led by the right-wing group in a way, because that has become the core of their politics. Now so that they are also using these genuine grievances, but also the language and the approach is more radical than BNP. And so there comes the question of like how this issue is going to get dealt by BNP upcoming election. BNP has already been framed as a pro-India party right now by Jamaat and their intellectual groups, as well as like their proxy intellectuals to some extent. So they are now promoting that the actually it's India who is bringing BNP in the power, and this is very weird. Like just 1.5 years ago, Jamaat and BNP were leading the anti-Hasina movement as well as the anti-India movement in Bangladesh. Now the one party is Jamaat is calling, at least like their intellectuals and their political mouthpieces are calling that BNP is actually Indian project and that India is helping BNP to come to power. This is very absurd if you look at like how the agency of the Bangladeshi citizens has been diminished by only blaming India for whatever good or bad happens. Now, how BNP is dealing with that? I think BNP is cautious about it because there is no doubt that there is public sentiment regarding India in Bangladesh, and that sentiment has increased compared to any other time of our history. And BNP don't want to go and outrightly, emotionally those challenges. They, as a pragmatic political party, they are focusing more on the, services that they are going to provide, particularly around the good governance. And regarding the anti-India, they wanted to be, at least what I am understanding, based on the public messaging of their political leaders and their election campaign, is that, of course, they will try to deal with India through the norms which are internationally accepted, and keeping Bangladesh priority at the first. Uh, I am not sure entirely how BNP would address Jamaat and their supporters, framing of BNP as a pro-India party. But historically speaking, this cannot be factually proven that BNP remain a pro-India party.
And there are also security concerns right now in Dhaka with the blast in Hasnabad. We're also seeing a recovery of certain explosive material from the blast site. How do you see the security challenges really mounting ahead of every elections, and what are the immediate concerns? Are these
Well,
terrorist proxy groups? Is also my question.
the explosion that happened in a madrasa in Hasnabad of South Karanganj is very alarming because the size of the explosion is very big. And on top of it, it happened in a madrasa, education institution. And similar kind of examples we have seen before as well, that some madrasas have been used for a proxy terrorist group to make bombs, and these kind of events happened before as well. However, for last couple of years, these kind of events were under control in a way, but now we are seeing this phenomena. So this is a singular case right now. We have to wait to make a conclusive comment on that, if it is a regular phenomena or not. However, I think uh, what happened, in Bangladesh, like because Sheikh Hasina, while she was dealing with the radical terrorist group, she has also used it politically. So the kind of arrangement like ATU and like anti-terrorism unit and other setup was prepared to deal with the non-state Islamist radical threat in Bangladesh, later on has been significantly used to silence the political party members. And when the political party members started getting victim of the state apparatus, they started challenging that in the narrative stage. And from that stage, a idea came that the terrorism cases are drama in Bangladesh. These are like false cases. And for last 1.5 year, particularly since the fall of Hasina, some right-wing political groups and their affiliated medias has extensively promoted this narrative that Sheikh Hasina has used this as a drama and used to silence her opposition, and therefore there is no terrorism threat. And therefore we saw like a very top police officer in Bangladesh speaking to media saying that maybe the holy artisan didn't happen, whereas the holy artisan is considered the biggest terrorist attack that the country has ever faced. Now there is that kind of sentiment, and that sentiment is also to some extent accepted by certain corner of the society. Therefore, right now it's very difficult to talk about the national security threat with regard to the radical group. Now, this explosion in Hasnabad is important, therefore, in that context, because it right now Hasina is not there. So then, if it is a drama, then who is doing that drama? And if it is not a drama, then actually who are the people are possibly producing explosive materials in a education institution? Now, the government as well as the police is looking into this issue. I think in the coming weeks, the new informations may come out, and we will get to know more about it. However, the analysts as well as the people who follow these cases in Bangladesh, they are cautiously observing the situation and waiting to see like what are the investigation reports comes out.
My last question, alongside the terror threat, there is also concern about freedom of speech after we've seen attacks on media houses. How are political parties reacting to it now? And how do you see this concern really increasing in coming days as elections come
You,
close?
you see what happened with the Daily Star and Pratham Alo and Chanot. It's unthinkable. So there was a clear attack and a clear organized orchestrated attack on the Daily Star, Pratham Alo, the two biggest newspaper of the country, and Chayanot. And uh, it's not that in Bangladesh it didn't happen before. Chayanot have been attacked before as well. The previously like some small or big newspaper has also been attacked in a smaller scale, but this scale nobody has imagined. So when Mr. Mahfouz Anam, the editor of the Daily Star, said in a in a meeting just immediately after the burning of his newspaper that right now it's not the question of the freedom of speech. Right now it's a question of journalist life. So forget about freedom of speech. If you do not leave, how are you going to exercise freedom of speech? So he was actually uh, begging to some extent for the security of the journalist. Because what we have seen in the Daily Star is that 28 journalists were kept inside the building when the building was set on fire. Never ever in the peacetime, I think in world history, this kind of attempt had happened that a significant number of journalists were kept inside a building and then the building was set on fire. Now this is definitely alarming because the group of people who went there, they have no idea who these journalists are. Most probably, like a majority of the people who participated in that vandalization have never read Daily Star, or may have not read the Prothomalo or the bylines of those 28 journalists who were stuck on the building. Now, just imagine if the rooftop gate were not opened on that day. Usually in Dhaka, it's very common that the rooftop gate would remain closed. But if it were closed, all these people could have died because of the inhaling of dark smoke from the fire. So, from that point of view, of course, there is a shock still going on. But the good thing is that because of that attack, the civil society, the larger part of the civil society, journalist community, as well as mm, uh, we see a sense among the citizens that they want stability, and particularly stability from all this anarchic political exercise and political rhetoric. And therefore, in the upcoming election, I think the stability is going to be the key argument, because whatever the evidence right now we are seeing that a significant number of leaders and individuals affiliated with the right-wing groups have participated in destroying those newspapers and the cultural platforms. Though, like Chhatro Shibir, Jamaat's student wing, have claimed that if any member of their party have joined or like provoked this, they have done it in their personal capacity. It has nothing to do with the organization. However, having said that, it doesn't mean, and we cannot diminish the idea that the right winger group were involved with it. It was pretty much evident. So, larger citizen groups are more interested to return to stability, and they are also waiting for the election. So, the expectation is once the election will happen, the stability will come, and with the stability, the safety to life, right to life, and also safety to right to freedom of speech would be ensured
Well, then,
under the
how is the
democratic government.
accountability being established by the interim government? What kind of action has been taken so far, and how is the interim government really going to ensure that such incidents don't happen again in future?
You see, what happened is that interim government's action was inadequate when it comes to ensuring the safety and giving assurance to the citizens that it is working to establish the stability. Particularly, they have made some arrests, there is no doubt about it. Uh, but these arrests are not like the people who incited the violence. These arrests are only people, those who went there and participated in the violence. Now, there is no doubt, of course, these people were directly participated. But see, a kind of event of this, magnitude cannot happen with the incitement of the political leaders. So if the government really wanted to do a solution and create an atmosphere of trust, they should have gone for the politicians who use the populist rhetoric in order to create a situation where newspapers such as Daily Star and Pratham can be attacked. So I don't think the interim government action was adequate in order to create that sense of stability. However, the government is there only for another 50 days. So it's not that people are expecting too much from this government as well. Now the expectation is that, okay, fine, whatever happened, happened. Let the election happen freely, peacefully, and hand over the power to elected government.
Thank you so much, Asif, for joining us, and we'll be mapping the political landscape of Bangladesh with you once again in coming days.